This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Chanoa Inez for the first time. Welcome to the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing?
Good. Thank you, Phantom.
Well, it's great to talk to people from around the world. We've been podcasting since 2016, and we like to do live podcasts, which is a kind of our jam because it allows people to have the conversation that's very authentic. But a couple of questions we're going to get into before we get to the heart of your story. I ask every guest, what motivates you and why do you do what you do?
Well, on a personal level, I would definitely say the joy of expansion. I've received a lot of gifts from this personal transformation journey. So it's nice to share that with others.
Well, that's an interesting. I use expansion, like expansive is kind of the name of my record label, expansive sound experiments, because I like to have expansive experiences that aren't like caught in one lane. I like to look at multiple things and be willing to kind of question my own concepts or what I believe, push myself a little bit. And I think expanding is better than being like in the box.
Oh, for sure.
Because a lot of people get stuck in a box, but expansion is like a better, I think for growth. Like if you're going to try to move to new opportunities, which is part of what we're going to talk about today, is you have to be willing to kind of question your belief systems or what you knew before or what you've experienced, right?
Definitely. There's no way to get there if you're stuck in the past.
Yeah, that's super important. I want to let people know I just swapped out a QR code. The first one was for a Podmatch because that's how we connect with people, guest and host. But now I've got a QR code that's actually for your website, which is out there on the link below. But if you take your camera, phone, and scan that, you can kind of follow along and check out your website. It will go directly to your URL that we have below. So you're an advanced mediator, and you're an author of Dream On, right? Of how to create a new life for yourself after upheaval or loss.
Yes. Actually, my book inspired this program we're going to be talking about. But I don't know if you want to talk about the book first or.
Yeah, maybe how you came to the book or how do you got into the space, but it's like your story, how you want to frame it. So just start where you want to.
Well, I wasn't planning on moving into the personal transformation space. It's something I've been passionate about for a long time. But it dawned on me when I started writing the book about 2 years ago, almost 3. I realized that, my life just felt so good. And I realized I only then walked out of this cloud of grief from the sudden loss I'd experienced years earlier. And so it suddenly became apparent to me that this is something that a lot of people go through and they don't realize it because it's kind of surreptitious. They redesign their lives unintentionally and they kind of shrink back and they start dreaming smaller and it affects every area of their lives. So as soon as I realized that, I realized there was a book I needed to write to help people reconnect to joy faster and dream big again. Yeah, so my story was in 2011, I was living in Miami and my boyfriend was from Montenegro. We lived together there and I couldn't wait to visit his country. So when we went on vacation, it was really hard because people kept asking about these beautiful pictures from vacation and videos. And I didn't want to talk about it because I just wanted to stay there. So we decided we'd go back the next summer to have summer vacation, but we'd put our things in storage and arrange our businesses to see if we can stay, if it would work out business-wise. And so we did that. And the first day was just like magic. It was up until that point in my life, it was definitely the best day of my life. Like everything just felt aligned. But unfortunately, he didn't wake up in the morning, and it was quite a shock. Wow. I was only in my 20s, and we had all these dreams together. And he wasn't just my boyfriend; he was my best friend. We did everything together, so it was just really like I lost my identity in a moment. And it was before, long before I started doing any meditation or anything like that. So I didn't have any tools to process that.
Process that kind of grief. Yeah, that's like a very stressful. You probably get post-traumatic stress. And if people build their lives around their partner sometimes, and when their partner they maybe didn't intend, what am I going to do? So
Exactly.
it's really hard to kind of like, well, now you've got to kind of pull yourself out of it. And it's not always easy because there's no roadmap unless there's somebody around to help you or you find it
Definitely
on
not a
your own.
roadmap. Yeah, definitely. And I think it was even more shocking because just like in your 20s,
Yeah,
you don't
anything's
think
going to
about
happen.
that. Yeah, that's like the last thing on your mind. So,
Yeah, because I had a different experience. In my 20s, I actually at 27, I got a stage 3 sarcoma cancer.
oh wow.
And a lot of my friends around me in my under 20s, they didn't, it was really strange. There were people that disappeared because they didn't want to deal with like the idea of mortality. And
Right.
there were some people around that I wouldn't, that weren't really that close to me. They got closer because they
Mm-hmm.
could handle it. And it really was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the litmus test is like some people could handle it and some people couldn't. And then I got to see like who was there. And then I got to kind of test myself is like, what am I going to do? And once I
Right.
got through it, I made some decisions like if I can beat cancer, then why am I scared of this? Why am I scared of
Mm.
that? So I'll go and push myself to do things I wasn't pre-cancer I wouldn't have done. So sometimes you have these crucible moments that happen in your life. Either something external happens or happens to you directly, and then things happen and change.
Definitely, I can relate to that. Also relating to how people react to different things. It was like a mass sweeping of not talking to people anymore when that after that happened. People reacted in very strange ways. Um, but yeah, talk about finding it's so great that you found something so good out of something so difficult. And I can relate to that as well because what happened was there were, a couple of years. I mean, it was on and off, you'd see me go on vacation or something, but there were a lot of the moments alone were so dark, so depressing at times. And so I started developing health challenges that now I look at them all like a complete blessing because if not, I wouldn't have gone on this personal transformation journey because everything I tried, doctors couldn't help me, nothing like Western medicine. So that's when I just discovered like meditation, yoga. I tried like a million modalities and it was just like, to me, I looked at it like, I have to figure it out. Like I should be, healthy. There's no reason, it's like multiple things like food allergies, eventually
Oh
there's like
yeah, with
chronic
stress,
tendonitis and yeah,
yeah,
it was
stress
all,
can affect the body. Like if you follow like more Eastern practices, I lived in Japan for
oh
couple of
wow.
years, and
Hmm.
I'm a Nichiren Daishonin Buddhist, which is a kind of Japanese
Yeah.
form of Buddhism. But this idea of meditation and centering yourself and breathing and Eastern mindsets, that rather than the kind of Western mindset is, oh, I'm going to take this pill, I'm going to take this medicine, I'm going to do this procedure. Everything's like physical.
Yeah.
Like everything has to be, it's like materialism, it's physical. And there's not a lot of focus on, well, what if you focus on your mind? What if you
Mm.
focus on your spirit? What if you focus on your soul? I'm part Native American. It's like, indigenous peoples in, Eastern practices aren't that different. Like a Cherokee or
Mm.
Blackfoot or any indigenous tribe within North America can tell you
Hmm.
like those Eastern practices were actually practiced here.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of mindset. It's like having this kind of being in touch with yourself and nature and other things that maybe are not physical can really help you.
Definitely. And so back then, I mean, if there was a pill I could have taken and I would have been better, I would have taken it. But that's not what I needed. And ultimately, this is so much better. So, things helped, but nothing really moved the needle, even though I was like on this long quest, it even took me to Peru. I went to, plant medicine retreat. I tried everything under the sun. But then when I moved back to LA, I stayed in Montenegro after that happened. Um, when I moved to LA, things started changing. I could suddenly eat a bunch of foods I couldn't eat before. And I think it was because I broke out of that identity I had because you're not seeing the same people every day, you're not doing the same things. So you kind of, chip away at that role. And then after a few years, I realized I thought I was so good with the self love thing, but I was like, oh, well, why do I have these friendships? This doesn't make sense. And then I realized I had this victim mindset that I had before that happened, and it amplified because I was like, well, why me? Why did this happen to me? Why is he gone? And
Hmm.
so identifying that was one of the biggest shifts for me. And then going into some deeper forms of advanced meditation. That's where things really started. They took a dramatic turn.
Because you can really reprogram your behavior. Because a lot of
Yes.
times people are kind of stuck in the box, or they're stuck on what we call like a musician with like a bad loop. Right?
Right.
You just keep on doing the same thing, you get the same result. You don't understand why you're getting the same result. Like you could move anywhere, but
Hmm.
you in Japan or you in Brazil, it's still you.
Yeah.
Until you figure out that the person in the mirror didn't change. Changing an environment isn't going to do it all the time. And so like when you figure out this, like, oh, I need to believe in myself and not be down on myself and always like saying you see people that are like, oh, I can't cook, I can't do this, I'm never going to do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Well, if you do that, you won't ever do it.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. And that's the thing. I was working on all of this for so long and I knew so much about it, like intellectually, but I wasn't getting enough of that subconscious change in there. So the work I started doing later was really focus on that and focus on those thought patterns. So everything else, it was like that's why I was seeing like just a little bit of progress here and there because it was very surface level and I didn't realize it.
Yeah, the surface, we live in a world that's very surface level, and everybody just goes like based on your smile, based on your look. And if you don't go deeper than that, if you just talk about the weather, you don't have a
Yeah.
real challenging conversation, even with yourself. Like if you don't
Hmm.
actually challenge your inner thoughts, then how are you ever going to handle anything external? Right. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of work you have, and it's kind of people talk about self love, and some people say, oh, how could if you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody else.
Yeah.
So it has to
Yeah.
start kind of there, right?
Yeah, and I always say it's not like it's like all rainbows and butterflies, this personal transformation journey. There are hard moments of having to look in the mirror because you're seeing these like patterns and it can feel awkward or you're like, how did I not see that I was doing the same thing for so long? But the payoff is so big. And it's like for me, it doesn't even feel like work when I look at, okay, what did I need to do and what did I need to become to get to where I am today. To me, it's all worth it. So, I mean, I think it's important just to like not be so critical of ourselves. Like everybody's going to see things that,
Yeah, like mistakes. It's like as an
exactly.
artist, right? If you're an artist, if you're a writer, right? If you're any kind of creative person, the heart of creativity is you have to break some eggs. Like you're gonna make mistakes. Like every musician, we've got so much stuff on the cutting floor that nobody sees.
Yeah.
Nobody sees that moment. Suddenly they think it's like, oh, you're an overnight sensation. Like it's like 10,000, 20,000 hours of practice. It's all the work you did that nobody sees. That's like, okay, but that does, there's all this stuff on the net where people just see things and they think, oh, there's like
Yeah.
10 steps, right? There was like 10 years before the 10 steps. There's like
Right.
10, 20 years before the 2 month retreat. Like it's not all overnight.
It's not. And that's also something I stress in my personal branding program because a lot of people think like, oh, my brand should be basically a carbon copy of this person in my industry who's successful or this person who has this. And that's completely missing the point. It's taking the personal out of the brand. So,
Yeah, branding is so important because everybody today, like one thing about the net is everybody can have their own brand and
yes.
everybody can be their own brand X, right? But then you still have a lot of people trying to clone because they say, oh, this person's got 1 billion views, so I got to be them. When really the real heart of your story is you. And so
Yeah.
if you find a way to present yourself in your unique vision or your unique statement or what you want to say,
Hmm.
if you just clone somebody else, if I just sample somebody else's song, it's like, of course, if that song got 1 billion plays and I sample it, I'm going to probably get a piece of that.
Yeah. Short term win. That's it.
Yeah, it's like versus do I actually say something that might be risky? Like if you say something that's true to yourself, right? There might be people that say they don't like it,
Hmm.
and then you might get hurt because you take it personal. But it's like in order to move, like sometimes you're going to break some eggs, sometimes you're going to make mistakes, sometimes they're happy accidents. Not everything is about perfection.
Yeah, it's so important to do that more often too. Not controversy for controversy's sake, but to realize when there's something you want to say and then you stop yourself. Like it's really important to question that. Like, why am I not saying it? Is it because you're starting trouble? Okay, that's a different thing. But
Yeah.
if it's because you're worried about, okay, when this person sees that, I know their perspective on it is that, you know what I mean? Like it's putting yourself into a corner. Um, yeah, and you know what really makes people connect, like in order for somebody to be memorable or unforgettable, or to really resonate, they have to show up as themselves. Otherwise, you know, there's no substance um, behind that interaction between two people. So, you
Yeah,
know,
it's super important because if you talk about their personal upheaval or
mhm,
your personal loss, you leave yourself vulnerable. And a lot of people want to stay safe. To
yeah,
stay safe, you might just clone what somebody else says, right? Because that's safer. But it's harder to actually reveal something very personal, right? And then you're scared. Well, what are people going to perceive about that? But that is how you
mhm,
grow, right? That's how you
yeah,
actually come out of the loss. Is if you talk about the loss, right? If you explain to people, and then people will see it, like I resonate with that because I had a loss. Maybe it's not the same loss, but you're willing
hmm,
to bring that to the table. So then people have the conversation, say, "Oh, I'm not the only one that's felt that."
right. And not everyone's building a building that's centered on personal transformation. So that doesn't have to be part of your brand, but it is part of your brand if you're not, you know, your actions are part of your brand. So if you are unable to or unwilling to have these vulnerable conversations, like you said, how can people connect with you on that level? And that's so true. So a lot of it just comes back to fear, the fear of being judged, the fear of being criticized, the fear of losing, you know, followers and potential clients. So um, part of my job is to help people see how much they can gain.
It's so interesting today because a lot of what we see today is kind of like clickbait, rage bait, be very controversial for controversial sake, like we you kind of mentioned. The algorithms really like it when you really stir it up. And
Right.
sometimes you stir it up and you really, there's nothing there. I mean, sometimes you see this clickbait and somebody says some crazy headline. When you read it, it's like, that's not what that's about.
No.
Right. So a lot of times it's like our attention spans are so, finite. Yeah, I'm a child of the 70s. And so I would sit and actually read a 200,000 page, word book. Now people can barely read
I'm a big
60,000,
reader.
and people, can't even pay attention within a movie. If you watch a movie from the 1970s, you see people today, they're like, that's too slow,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
Everybody has to have something like immediately just, the plot. You can't have a deep plot. You can't have anything that's like takes a little time to have some critical thinking, or it just seems like so. It's like we got to just throw it all out there real quick, real fast, bang, bang, bang. So in a world like that, how do you, magnetize your personal brand if everything's got to be just like click at this, super instantaneous
Uh-huh.
satisfaction?
Well, that's definitely true for a lot of people, but it's not everybody. So again, I would say it's about resonating with your people. So who are the people who are going to gravitate towards your message? It's important that, you know, you're never going to have this strong magnetic pull with everybody, and that's not the
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm.
So you find your people, but they can't find you if you're not showing up as you. If you're hiding and you're afraid to post, or you know,
Yeah, that's
it's
super. So that's always important. I've always told a lot of artists is like what you're scared to show people is the thing you should show them,
right.
right? And I've always talked to a lot of young artists is like, they come and they try to like they come to you as a producer and they try to show you they can do something that's popular.
Mhm.
And as a kind of like a producer is kind of like a music teacher, and it's like I want to hear who you are. So show me the thing you're scared to show me, because
Yeah,
that's going to show me what we can work on that actually is going to be interesting because it's you
there
and
you
nobody
go.
else is that. And if
Yes.
you and that's hard to do because people don't feel comfortable presenting. It's like when you're in class and nobody wants to raise their hand, right? And nobody wants to say anything when
Mm-hmm.
somebody, they oh wow, I'm scared of what the crowd's going to think. Well, and if you want to be that person that's going to get attention, you kind of got to get beyond that.
Definitely. Um, yeah, it's interesting you should say that. So I always say that you're the secret to your success. So you have to put yourself into it. Otherwise, again, there's no way to form that special connection. And yeah, I mean, music, that's interesting. And that's also the reason why after I published my book, that's when I got the idea for this program, because everybody's talking about personal branding. It's important. Obviously, we all know why we're all online, but a lot of the focus is on the exterior. And, while those things can help, like, your branding, visual identity, and things like that, they're important. But if you don't have that core, like if you're thinking of the example of a musician, if the musician is afraid to show up as himself, then what is he doing? Because he's just going to show up as an order taker and be able to, deliver music that we already have. So it's like, well, what are you going to bring to the table? And for you to bring something different to the table, you have to bring your whole self to it.
Yeah, it's like this is always the big conversation a lot of times in the arts today. Would a Jimi Hendrix actually be able to exist today?
Mm.
Because he broke tons of rules. He
Mm-hmm.
did all kinds of stuff like feedback. His voice wasn't perfect tone. He was doing things that were not they weren't being done. Like he was pulling, and so the willingness for him to be himself, the authentic nature, and even a guy like Bob Dylan, in an age of singers, Columbia Records, they had Frank Sinatra, they had all these singers that had these really perfect voices,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't write the song. Other people wrote the songs. And
Yeah.
the structure of the industry was there was a songwriter and there's a singer. And the singer has to be able to have a really good vocal. Be like the vocal was the whole thing. And Dylan brought it like, no, the words are the thing.
Mm-hmm.
What's
Mm-hmm.
right and how you deliver it doesn't have to be perfect. And so that opened up for the whole, like in the 60s and the 70s, it opened up like original singer songwriters could start to show up, write their own songs, not have perfect voices, but they actually told stories that resonated with audiences. And it opened up the industry to like a lot of points of view. And
Yeah.
so today I'm wondering like if people are so into like, oh, just repeat this person's success.
Mm-hmm.
Are they willing to be themselves?
Yeah, there will always be people who are willing to take the risk and stand out. You have people like Björk, still
Yeah.
a consummate original. I'm a big Björk fan.
Yeah, she's
But to
totally
be
original.
so bold and to insist on being yourself, and then seeing the rewards of that, and then the benefits it has on everyone around her and people who listen to the music. Because every time you show up like that, you're giving someone else the courage to go do that for themselves. So, I mean, there's certain levels of success people can have from, not showing up as a truly unique person. But can you imagine like Bob Dylan showing up, deciding to fit the mold at his time? We wouldn't know his name.
Yeah. It's interesting. His story was he was kind of a chameleon. At the beginning of his career, he was like mimicking Arlo Guthrie and Woody Guthrie
Oh.
until he actually found his voice.
Mm.
So it was a process. He went and
Mm-hmm.
tried all types of styles. And so this is kind of like this is the thing that people don't see. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's like the 10,000, 20,000 hours when you're in the trenches. Like when you're a writer, you're writing your first book, right? And you got to send it to the beta readers or have other people look over your. It's like, how do you know? Like that's always a thing for me is like when I ask artists, is like, what gave you the permission structure to even type your book, right? What made you feel that you could do it? Because there's lots of people that have the idea they're going to do it, but they never do it.
Yeah.
So what made you feel like you could do it?
Um, well, I've been a writer for a long time. I've been a copywriter for 15 plus years, strategist for several years. Um, and I was writing long before it was ever a career. So the writing part didn't bother me, but the idea did intimidate me. And I was not planning to write a book about that, But it just felt like it was really like an insight, like, oh, there's this book I need to write. And so I realized it's bigger than me. There's no reason anyone should take that long to completely step out of this cloud of grief. And I know ways for people to like bounce back faster. So it has to happen. So when I started writing it, it was so easy. It was like all the ideas were flowing. And then there was a period of time where I got like, my schedule just got so full. And so I put it down for like 2 months. And then I realized no matter how full my schedule is, I could have kept going a little bit. And I realized it was a procrastination by like actually fear masquerading as a full schedule.
Like right when you're on the brink of something, sometimes you have this thing that stops you. I've talked to a lot of artists. They get like really into something, and then suddenly that doubt comes in. Or there's like, can I really do it? Or they find excuses like the procrastinate. Oh, I got to do this. Oh, I'm busy. I can't really do it. It really kind of goes back to the fear. I'm not going to be safe if I put this out. It's going to change my life if I put this out. And maybe I'm more comfortable where I am than where I should be.
Right. Yeah, it's just important to keep going.
Yeah,
there are always these moments in life. Yeah, just don't believe that voice. So when I got back to writing it, though, I finished it in like record time, and then I shared I think just the intro and the first chapter with a friend who's also a writer. So that was like nerve-wracking. I didn't realize it was going to be like that. It was like I was like nervous, like a cartoon character. I was like, it was wild, and my friend liked it a lot, so it was great. But I realized it's that the ego trying to protect you. I could feel that. It was a visceral reaction I had, and then once I got past that, it was just like, okay.
Because once you put something in the world, like the readers or the audience, like any artist that puts their work into the world, like it gets interpreted, right? And so what happens is the audience ends up, like for songwriters, it happens all the time. The audience ends up owning your song, and how they hear it is not how you wrote it. There might be pieces that they connect on, and there's a synergy there, but a lot of times artists will get feedback from their fans, and they're like, it's really interesting. And I won't try to, a lot of them won't shoot their audience down, but it's not, their interpretation is not the original intent. But it's like, once you put something in the world, it's in the world. And you just have to accept that like people are going to interpret or are going to feel what they feel.
Yeah, you're not sitting next to them reading.
You can't control it. It's like you can't be a control freak. And some people make the mistake of like wanting to control that frame to the nth degree, and sometimes we have to let it go.
Right. Definitely. So it was easy once I got past that point. I would just say, writing about what actually happened, I was surprised that it was so emotional for me in the editing process, because I kind of skipped over details because one, I didn't, it's a very uplifting book actually, and I didn't want to bring the readers down. And but my developmental editor pointed out, she's like, well, you have to give more. There's room between traumatizing the readers and, just not giving enough detail for them to really connect to exactly what was this experience that happened. So I went back to do those edits, and it's the only time that I had to ask for an extension to edit, because I realized it was just too emotional for me. And I was surprised because, I've gone through this whole healing process, but that's like the nature of grief. You kind of don't know how it shows
like
up.
when you go back into feelings, like when you're an artist, a lot of times like our cachet of what is what's happened. Like it's like we use pain, we use emotions, any emotion, what's happening. We use that to drive our creativity. And then when you have to go back and like in the editing process for any artist that goes back and has to like dive into what they did, if that pain was like behind it, then you get drawn back into it. So like if you're a musician and like it was really painful, this passage you created, and then you're your engineer and your producer say, "Oh, go back into that and readdress it." And then you got to find it again,
Right.
right? And sometimes with singers, like we put a lot of emotion into that performance, and it comes from that place. And if you have to go and do that like 100 times, sometimes you get put into that like 100 times.
Brutal. Yeah. That's funny you should say that. I don't know why I didn't make that connection, but the kinds of meditations that I do, you practice these elevated emotions, these emotions of your future. So I should have made that link actually when that happened, because I was having to go back in and explore how I was feeling and going back to that day. So
Yeah, and I've talked to actors and film directors that have to pull that out of an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And they're method actors and actors that have to get into that character and get to that like a painful moment on screen, and they pull that. But then the mechanics of filmmaking is like they might have to do that multiple retakes of that moment, right? And then they have to dive into it, and it's like how do you do that so it seems authentic? Right?
I always wondered about that, especially the ones who stay in character the whole time, the whole production, and like off the set.
Well, I've talked to actors, and they have to kind of walk away and kind of give themselves like a way to regenerate or heal themselves so they don't hurt themselves emotionally, because it can be very draining.
Yeah.
And some people, sometimes they don't have a good balance with that. They get stuck in the character. They're stuck in character and they have a hard time getting out of it. And it's like over time, you find ways to do that. And I've run into musicians like either stage self, they work themselves into a certain frame, but then the show's over and they're still in that frame. And it's hard to get out of it. It's a struggle, because like you monetize that emotion,
right?
But now you have to live with it, where you turn it into a performance, and now you've got to deal with the day to day. Well, how do you do that? And it's a balance. It's like you have to figure out how to do that so you can live.
Yeah, that's important. Very interesting.
But it's just interesting about joy, the idea of joy, because some people feel like ashamed if they feel joy, right? Because maybe they've been taught to be kind of, not so reserved that joy is a sin, that joy is bad, that joy is not something you should do because there are people aren't feeling joy. So what right do you have to feel joy? So how is that,
Wow.
Well, it's just something as a writer, I've run into it, but I've talked to a lot of people too. But there's a whole thing around like that, the feeling of joy, and can you actually give yourself permission to feel joy?
I mean, I think joy is essential. If somebody can't feel joy, they're not happy. I mean, it's very easy to say, are you happy, Phantom? And you say yes. It's very logical, left brain. You just kind of like go through a checklist of like, yeah, I'm good, I'm happy. And I was saying I was happy for years, and I didn't realize I wasn't happy, because happy's not enough of it's not a good enough gauge. If you can feel joy, then you're really in this kind of solid place of like elevated emotions. I consider it to be energized happiness. And because you can feel that, there's no faking it, no telling yourself you're feeling joy when you're not. I think it's just really important to check in with that one.
Yeah, sometimes you got to feel like if you're a people pleaser like type of person, you might push yourself down and feel obligated to be that self-sacrificing person.
Yeah.
So then you get to that such a degree of like you don't think it's right to feel joy for yourself because there's always something somebody else needs. And so you have to give yourself the space, and people have to give themselves grace. And sometimes we get stuck in some of these like ways of living that kind of keep us from being where we really should be.
Well, yeah, in my program, I say if you're a people pleaser, there's a 100% chance that you're not being 100% you. It's not possible. So that's really why it's important to get these inner considerations right if we're looking for external results.
Now, in terms of your book, you've got exercises, and I don't want to give away all of them because people want to read your book. But are there some exercises from your book that you can kind of give us as example?
Um, yeah, well, for one, if somebody's going through something difficult right now, I would say um, pretend that you're a friend. Like, check every thought and don't let a thought pass by that is kind of undermining you. Like, you need to stand there. Like, if you think something about yourself that you would never say to a friend and it would never be accepted by that friend, okay, then it's got to go. Because a lot of people, while they're going through these challenges, there's the challenge, and then there's also the guilt of, why am I not feeling better sooner? Why am I not going back to work sooner? Or why am I, I'm being a drag. I'm like, a downer. So it's like a two-sided, there's the actual challenge, and then there's all of the stuff happening inside of you. And so you have to lighten up,
Mhm.
leave yourself alone, give yourself grace and space to just, feel all those emotions. You don't want to like kind of stuff it all away or just kind of skate over it and then have it deal with you later on. But you have to be your number one. Like, you have to have your back as like number one, like non-negotiable.
Yeah, I think some people need to, I guess, have boundaries because some folks don't have boundaries, and so they don't allow themselves to actually, like they don't live their dreams, right? Because they've allowed so many people to kind of take over the direction of where they're going to go that they don't feel that they actually have permission to live out
Mhm.
your dreams. And it was interesting during the pandemic that people suddenly, I talked to a lot of people doing
Mhm.
podcasts during that period where people finally dove into their dreams.
Yeah.
People started, people who wanted to write a book, they wrote a book. People who wanted to write a song, they wrote a song. Somebody wanted to start a business, they went and started something, because it's like, oh, I have time now to think about it. But like, does it take something like that, the
Yeah.
pandemic, to happen to actually go do that, or could you do that without that?
Yeah, and that's continuing now. I'm seeing a lot of that, like people, especially like with starting businesses. And it's interesting because there have been so many layoffs. Like, I work with tech companies, and it's been
Yeah,
years of like countless layoffs. And yeah, that's brutal. But the again, finding a positive out of a brutal situation, a lot of people realize, there was something that they wanted to do that they never tried to do. Either they were afraid, they didn't have time, and then they're applying and nothing's happening. So it's like, well, why not try now?
yeah.
So it's very interesting.
It's interesting because, like, part of my life is like I noted, like I do tech, like I'm a software guy, but I'm
Yeah.
an artist too, and I'm a podcaster. But the one thing I made a decision a long time ago, that I used to be a road warrior, I used to be flying here and there and always on the road. And then I decided, I need the space to do what I want. So I decided I was going to work with people that would allow me to still have my creative, set the boundary. I
Right.
want to be able to do podcasts. I want to be able to write music.
Right.
I can't have a job that takes up 120% of my time, so I can't do any of those things. So
Hmm.
you have to be able to make a decision. It's like, I'm going to do some things that are independently my thing, right? They're not the company thing, right?
Right.
And or maybe that's just like it's my own company or it's my own idea. And sometimes it's with this modern tech of all this AI, and it goes, your job gets automated. You
Hmm.
get laid off, you get pushed out. It's like, well, now you got some time to, like, maybe I should think that thing I thought was impossible. Maybe I should do that. And that's
Right.
what it seems to be going on. Is it's kind of forcing people to make that choice. It's
Right.
not a choice. It's like now you have to actually go into yourself and rely on yourself. Not that this company's not going to do it. I mean, a lot of people always were kind of taught like, oh, the company's going to have my back. Look, maybe they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think even if somebody's completely happy with their job, and, they haven't been laid off or anything, it is so important to have that purpose that's not related to the job, outside of work, what's lighting you up. And, you don't want to have that as this thing that you're like, if the floor, if the rug's pulled from beneath you, you don't know who you are because you don't have this job anymore.
Yeah, because somebody was like, I am the engineer, I am the accountant, I'm the actuary.
Yeah.
And then your company decides, oh, I'm going to make, that's all going to be AI. So you did that for 20 years, and now we're like,
Yeah.
what do you do now?
Or retired people who get very depressed because
Yeah, because their whole life was
identity was the job.
yeah, their whole life was they that's the job, that whatever the job was in the cubicle.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they get out of the cubicle, they don't know what to do because they never had anything else. They're not always guys like, oh, they're in a little band outside, or they paint, or they go to their community theater and the theater. They gave everything to the job.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they come out of the job, they don't know what to do because the job was them.
Right.
And so they didn't allow themselves, they let it become too much of them. And maybe it really wasn't. It's like they felt like responsibility, like a people pleaser. Like I got to pay my mortgage. I got to send my kids to college. I got to do this. I got to do that. And then they never had time to actually decide what they wanted.
It's an easy trap to fall into, because, busy schedules and just kind of like hustle culture. It's very easy. But I think like it's such a priority every week to find time to spend time with people. Spend time with people.
Yeah, it's like lessons learned through life. We in the computer world, we have to exponentially retrain ourselves, and we learn everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like the world shifts so fast that whatever we knew last year,
yeah, I bet.
So it's like the whole thing is like we have to always go to school, right? We're always having to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some folks that want to feel like, well, I got this certificate and I'm done. It's like, no. We're kind of in an age where like you can't be done. You kind of have to be open to change. And I think that is scary to a lot of people that want to think that I can get to this one point and then I'll be set.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not really going to be that way.
Yeah, I think there are probably very few industries where you can go there and just be set now because everything's moving quickly.
Yeah, there's so much stress. There's not the stress, but it's like, oh, well, we can bring this robot in, we can have this automation, and we can always, we can get this person in this other country because they can do it for less money. We can send this to Mumbai. Mm-hmm. And so you were doing it for 20 years, but they do it for like 50% less money.
Mm-hmm.
So now what are you going to do? Right. So it's even if you had a skill, it's like they can find somewhere on the planet, somebody can do it better.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've got to push yourself, and that global competition is now in your face.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, those things are outside of everyone's control, I would say, as an employee. But I think the more somebody's willing to change and open to change, the less stressful any kind of situation like that's going to be, because then you always know you have options.
Yeah, I think this is where you have to kind of now raise your hand. Like you can't be, they used to be like in my childhood in the 70s, you could get away with being the person that was in the classroom that never raised your hand. And you were in a job, you're on the assembly line, you're just taking that widget, and you didn't have to really do it. You could not have, you might not have to change. But now we're in a world where that kind of comfort zone
mm-hmm.
is not really there.
No, I mean, if you look at consumer tech, even it changes so quickly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even like social media apps and things like that. I left Instagram for like a year and a half, and I came back just because when my book came out, I realized I should get back on here, and I was shocked to see how much it changed in a year and a half. It was a different platform.
Like every week, like whatever you think was working, it mm-hmm. shifts so fast that you have to be like on top of it. Like the changes don't last for like, oh, you could do this same thing for 6 months, 3 months. Things happen so dynamically today that you always got to be, and it's kind of stressful. I mean, my daughter's 25, so she's up on a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And so she's up on it. Oh, Dad, that changed. You can't do that. It's like, that's not going to work.
Keep up.
So she's really good for me on the social media because that's not, the SEO is not even working. That's not even what they're doing. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. That's funny.
But it's like, that's the world. It's like, she's a TikToker, like when you're out there, it's like, this is the way the world works now. And even that changes all the time. All that trend's old. Mm-hmm. This is like, it's kind of hip culture. I mean, everybody's always had this kind of hip thing. Well, that's not hip anymore. Mm-hmm. Right. But now it happens like it's exponential.
Yeah, everything's speeding up. But you know, there's space for what can we control, right? And I think that's the thing to focus on, and not getting too carried away with, I think, feeling overwhelmed by all the changes.
Well, I
Just
think, yeah, you
focusing.
find what you're good at, right?
Yeah.
And then, like you said, there's like you put something in the wall and you can find your tribe. And it's okay if not everybody likes it. This is the problem
Hmm.
because there's some people like I gotta get everybody to like it, right?
Yeah.
Like
Good
that's
luck
not
with
what
that.
that's not gonna happen, right? So say if
Right.
you get stressed because now you're looking at all the people that didn't like it.
Hmm.
What about the people that did like it? Like if you spend all your time looking at all the negative feedback, rather than there's artists all the time. They're like, okay, the critics said it was terrible. Then 10 years later, the critics are saying it was great,
Hmm.
right? So you can't go by that, right? You have to go by
No.
what your gut feel is, right? It's like if you feel that this is like what you should be doing, you do it because like that's what you're passionate about. If you're gonna go and put your finger in the wind, and say what's the new trend, you can be aware of it, but don't make that
Hmm.
like the 99% of why you do it.
Right.
Then you're gonna be unhappy.
No, no. Then you're always, you know, getting blown around by the breeze. Yeah, I mean, there can be value from external, let's say, feedback, but it's really important, I think, to focus more on internal validation, because even like not getting too carried away with the highs of like that really good review. They really loved your album, and now you're like,
Yeah,
you know, your feet aren't on the ground. It's
but they
like,
always never love your next album. Man, that's the thing.
yeah,
It's like no matter what you do, like they love this single, they hate this one. Like they love this movie, they hate that movie. They love this painting, they hate the next set of paintings.
yeah,
I mean, every
yeah.
artist runs into that. You have a period where you're aligned with your audience,
Mhm,
and then you have these periods where you're not.
mhm.
And the problem is, well, you gotta live. So how do you live when you're not? But it's like that's just the way it is. It's hard to always stay in that like zone where everybody's gonna love it.
No, and I think it's important not to focus too much on are they going to love this, because then that really cuts the creativity. I think it's also being able to kind of like be objective and be like, what do I think about this? Like really, when everything else falls away, am I happy with this? Can I deliver this product? So,
Yeah, because you have to learn. I mean, like in design, like in invention and engineering, there's all kinds of things. Like we think we know what the customer wants.
mhm.
Right? We build something and then we find out, oh, like it doesn't work. Right? And so like a lot of times there's a lot of happy accidents in invention and engineering and design. And it was like what we have an intention, and then we say, oh, the market actually likes this, and that was actually a mistake. And then you spend all your time saying, well, how can we do that mistake again? It's like, well, you're not going to do that mistake again.
Hmm.
You're going to do something else that's a happy accident that happens to work. So that means you need to iterate a lot and they kind of throw things at the wall. If you spend all your time not throwing things at the wall, then you're not going to know what works.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times it's like now we live in a world where it's like you kind of got to put it out there and see what works. And we used to live in a world where people kind of hold back and then they would put one specific thing and put all the marbles on that, bet everything on that. It's like, well, you do it like that, you're gonna fail.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting that you should bring up innovation and iteration, because um, a lot of times people think like, oh, it's not really that important to be visible. But then you look at like you have very successful people like Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. You have Sir Richard Branson. They could sit on a beach like for lifetimes, but they're constantly visible. But these are also people who, it's funny, like talking about that relationship with risk and courage, who got where they got where they are because they kept iterating, and they didn't do things how everyone else did because they didn't know how other people did it.
yeah,
They entered industries that they knew nothing about, but they had this, something struck them, this inspiration, and they went to go try it, and people told them no, it doesn't work that way, and they're like, I'm gonna figure it out. And so they figured it out, and they, you know, outdid everybody else from just not following that program.
Yeah, that's always like the trap, the comparison trap is like I always like this story about Orson Welles when he did Citizen Kane,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like a really big pivotal moment in filmmaking. And people asked him, "It's like, well, how did you come up with these like the wipe?" And there's this famous thing where they would wipe, and there's a lot of techniques in that movie
Yeah.
that had never been done.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked him, he said, "I didn't know what you couldn't do."
Yeah.
They asked me and said, "Well, did you really think?" I was like, "I just didn't know what you couldn't do, so I did whatever I thought. I didn't know that you're not supposed to do this. Or you're
Right.
not supposed to do that." So when you have people who go into something and they're not so aligned with the canon,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're not so aligned with like trying to keep it. Oh, it's got to be Shakespeare. It's got to stay within this Shakespearean thing, or it's got to stay within this. If they're willing to kind of, well, why not? The why not?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the innovation happens because you're not stuck in the canon.
It's so true. If they if he studied the textbook and saw, he would have been stuck in that world. So it is interesting.
Yeah, I think that's like the hope for everybody, and that's why I say like AI is not going to take everybody's job because human beings have the one thing:
Mm-hmm.
we have this randomization machine that's in our mind and our spirit and our soul, and what we do is inconsistent, and that's the beauty of it. The computer always wants to do something consistent. It's learning what is known. All this AI is based on what's known. And
Yeah, and it's funny that people, I think, feel like it's like magic. It's very clearly just giving us what already exists. But it's funny you should say that about computers in the random. They just announced a new published paper today from my meditation teacher, and this form of healing that we do at the retreats and virtually. It combines the same, heart brain coherence that we use in our meditations. And this published paper shows how the effects of us doing those coherence healings, they put random generators in, like number generators in the rooms at the retreats, and they stopped acting random when the room got into brain heart coherence. So just thinking about that. So yes, humans will always be more powerful than AI. And I think it's really important that we think about how, we are the master of those tech tools. It's not about trying to create something that's going to outdo us and this thing to like kind of put on this pedestal. Like
yeah,
we are the magic. And then that's something that we can use to serve our aims.
yeah, it's just a tool. It's like any tool, like any tech tool that's ever come along. People are like, "Oh, automation is going to replace everything." No, it doesn't. From the
Mm-hmm.
Industrial Revolution back to the assembly line, you still needed workers,
Mm-hmm.
right? You still need, people who thought leaders because, like I said, everybody wants to understand AI is really magical because it has this massive library of all this information, and it can super fast go and grab it, and then it can kind of collage it. And in some creative attempts with the tool, it's basically very interesting collages
Mm-hmm.
that it puts together, and it can pose. It seems like art, but if you talk to a real artist,
Mm-hmm.
right, a real painter, you look at an AI painting and they look at like a painting that's done by a human artist. They say, well, the AI is doing this, and if you're not trained as an art critic, you can immediately see the human piece of work has like a soul and a heart and the inspiration
Yeah.
behind it. It's got that spark, and the AI doesn't. It looks like art, but it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
junk food art.
Yeah.
it,
Yes.
it
Yeah.
might satisfy like an immediate need, but it's not going to satisfy the soul. And that's why
No,
humans are always going to be in the driver's seat when it comes to soul relating things that have feeling and heart and spirit.
that's it. The essence.
Yes, the essence of everything is really like, living out your dreams because like part of what you were your goal in life, like when you started having your journey was, to live out your dreams, right? To find a
Mm-hmm.
way to actually live not like in secret, but live in your life, execute, have your dreams happen, not
Mm-hmm.
just keep them inside, like make it actually happen in the world, right? That's like the dream of everybody. But that's something you've actually been able to work on.
Yeah, and I really, it's really something that everybody can do. But if somebody's like either going through something difficult now, or they went through something difficult and then kind of shrunk their lives, like that experience I went through and my reaction to it. Anyone can get there. It's just a matter of, taking the steps to free up enough energy again and to get re-energized. And once that foundation is back in place, then you can start thinking about that. So that's very intentionally, it's the biggest chapter in my book, and it's the last one. But people have been through much even more difficult things, I'm going to say, than I have, and that was very difficult. And they have managed to find so much joy and freedom in their lives. So I really think this is something that anybody can access.
Yeah, I think it's important to be able to, understand your life is, it's like when you're a captain on the ocean, right? If the ocean was always calm, like that captain's not going to know how to navigate that ship. Right. So you want a captain that's actually gone through some stormy weather.
Yeah. One would hope. So, yeah.
Because it's like, how are you going to handle it when something happens? Like, if you don't know how to handle the life's curveballs, it's like that's life is going to throw you curveballs. You're going to go through things, and it doesn't have to be the end just because something happened that was like traumatic.
No, but a lot of people do think that. I distinctly remember in the years that followed his passing, multiple people asked me, like, how do you move on with your life? Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, am I supposed to just like sit in a corner, of my room and sit there? Yeah, I just cry and people bring me food for years. And it was really, I remembered finding that, one, I was obviously still dealing with that. But two, I was like, well, what is the alternative? That was very confusing to me. And it was really eye-opening to see how many people said that. Yeah. So, yeah, resilience is not
super
optional.
Important. I was a cancer patient when I was in my, 27. And I was in the cancer ward. And I was with some cancer patients that thought it was like the end. Mm-hmm. Right. And their mindset was, oh, I'm done. Right. And then there was other people in the ward who was like, no, I'm going to get out of it. And it was a difference between the people who felt they could get out of it. They actually got out of it. Mm-hmm. And the people who thought it was over, they didn't get out of it.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's really like, that is so powerful, like your state of mind. Mm-hmm. And then because if you think it's over, it will be over. But if you feel like you have another day, if you got another year, you got another decade, then you do.
Yeah.
So it's really, it's like how much power you have like within you to change your reality and remap the world. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. It's so powerful. People just like, oh, you need this, you need that. It's like a lot of it is just like it's inside of your head.
Yeah.
It's like in your spirit.
Yeah. Thinking it's over is basically making that person's life being over a dream. And then their bodies then responding accordingly. They're rewiring their brain accordingly. And yeah, so it's the same thing. It's like, it's creating what you want. It's just, you don't realize, you're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. It's just, there's always another day. The way it's like every day you can get up, you have a chance to it's not like if you wake up and you think it's over every day, mm-hmm. Right? Then you're not going to have that pivotal moment in your life where it's like, yeah, I can win. There's so many people that have been kind of pushed into thinking like, whoa, it's not. They're kind of stuck. They get stuck in poverty. They get stuck in a mm-hmm. mindset. They get stuck in a really toxic workplace or relationship because they can't see beyond it.
No,
you have to find a way to kind of be able to say like, I can actually get beyond this. And that is kind of remapping your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like being able to wake up every day, being excited to see what's going to happen and appreciating the day. And, there is something like, I mean, sometimes fake it till you make it works in that sense. Like, I remember just like probably 4 or 5 years after Bodo passed away, I was working on, I already started to meditate. and I read something about, the power of getting out of bed like energetically. And so I remembered I didn't really want to do it, but I was like forcing myself. So I would just kind of like, one leap out of my bed in the
One
morning
step at
and
a
like
time. Like you get the little
plaster,
wins, little
yeah,
wins.
plaster a fake smile on my face. And I realized it started like after a while, I just would wake up really energetic and happy. But for a while, it was just like me, like I was going through the motions. Like I heard this helps.
No, it's like somebody you have to have a little win. And
Yeah,
it's like 0 to 100. Like if you always think you got to hit 100, then if you
you're never
don't hit
gonna
100,
try.
yeah. So, but if you was
Yeah.
like, well, today I hit 10, and that's not bad because I'm not at 0. Next day I hit 30, maybe I go back to 50. But every day I do, I'm not at 0. Every day you try, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's, you give yourself some grace and some credit that you're actually trying, right? And that's a problem with a lot of folks. Is like it's all or nothing. All or nothing's not going to get you there. It's
Yeah. I mean, how? Especially when, someone's thinking about there's something, some big thing that they want to achieve. Well, if you think you need this perfect record from here to there, you're never going to try anything. So it's like, it's just another form of self-sabotage. And I'm a recovering perfectionist, so
yeah, you get
I
it.
know how that goes too.
Yeah, the perfection trap. That's always the bad things. Like I've run into tons of artists that they will not present their work, and if when people look at it, I say, "This is brilliant," and it's just sitting and it's never been shown, and you're like, "Why?"
Wow.
It's very disappointing, and you have to,
Yeah.
when you see these people, it's like this is like incredible, and you're not showing it to anybody, you're not putting it in the world. And it's like, well, it's not ready. It's like it's not ready to you, but you're not always the best judge of your own work.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. You wonder how much art is out there that we haven't seen.
There's a lot. I mean, there's a whole history like William Blake. There's tons of great artists
Okay.
that people like William Blake, the famous poet. His work was found in a barn after he died. One of the greatest Victorian poets,
Yeah.
Tiger, Alfie, like that was not known in the Victorian age.
I didn't
That
know
was
that.
known in our age, right? Like in
Okay.
the 20th century,
Wow.
that people did not know him, and he felt enough about his work that he etched it into these metal plates. His poems were like in acid plates that had all this artwork and stuff, and they were found in a barn. And in fact, they put them in these plates made so they were more permanent, so they were found.
Okay.
But like that's sometimes like but he had the spark to create the work. It just wasn't known. It didn't become famous in his own time. There's a lot of examples in the arts of that, and so that's why a lot of times it's like, art or whatever you do is important, and sometimes it's not. You're in your timeline that it's going to work. But it might be another timeline that does work, so it's still important to create it.
Yeah, even just the act of creating it, right?
Yeah, it's super important. But I want to, we always hit the hour mark faster than we ever imagined. I want to remind people that we do have a QR code for your website. So if people click on that, what happens if they go to your website? What they can find out everything about you and connect on your book.
You can find out more about my book, my programs. There's a one-on-one program, and there's also now the online course, which the online course version just launched yesterday. It's called Magnetize Your Personal Brand. Yeah. And just if you feel called to reach out, I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn or hit me up on Instagram.
Well, yeah, we have your Instagram below, and everybody will be able to click on the links that are on the page right now on the screen. Within the platforms that we're on, we were just on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kick. And we'll be on Spotify, Video Podcast, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon, a bunch of other platforms. And we will create a landing page for everybody to check out. And we'll be creating some clips and putting them on Instagram in the next couple of days. But thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Phantom.
Thank you.